Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing out there on YouTube? Welcome to another live stream. We can call it a live stream drawing Hangout. Whatever works best for you. I just want to check my sound here. There we go. Okay, awesome, awesome. All right, all right. So thank you so much for joining me here today. As usual, everything is, you think you prepare and, you don't, you do prepare, but everything kind of sneaks up at you and on you, and all of a sudden, like, you need to draw. And you need to make things happen. So your time is valuable. And Carmela, thank you so much for joining me here today. And yes, all right, let's do this. Let's get started. So what I'm going to do, so today, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a portrait. It's a simple one. Maybe the live stream will go an hour, hour and a half, something like that. But this photo, actually, I got it from the Graphit Studio photo pack. And I don't know if it was just bonus photos, and it was kind of almost like a blooper, because you saw the photographer holding their phone or a light meter, and the model almost looked like they weren't even really posing. Sometimes those are some of the best photos. I remember when I used to photograph models a lot for illustration book covers, like I sometimes you catch the model off guard, and sometimes those are like the best photos when they're not even like posing. I would do this especially at the end of the photo shoot. Like, I'm like, okay, we're done, and then they'd get like, they just do something natural with their hands, and I'd be like, oh wait, stop, that's the pose. And so like this pose is semi. Let me show you, because talk is boring, right? So let's see here. So let's go to this one. Sweet. So when you look at this photo, it may not be that out of focus on YouTube on your screen, but it's a little bit out of focus, right? And it's an impromptu photo. The photographer, I kind of cropped them out. They're off to the left. And yeah, I just like this pose. I like the shape of the face. It reminds me of like a couple of other artists. Like there's a great artist out there, and I always, let me write their name down. I always forget about them, and I always love showing them to my students. And I'm remembering them now, and I'm going to share them with you in a moment. I'm just writing it down. Their name is Julio Reyes. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Bob, thank you so much for joining me. And I think there's a portrait, like a Julio Reyes portrait, where the model's looking down like this, and I'm like, I gotta do this drawing. I gotta draw this, and plus it's pretty simple for a live stream. Nothing too complicated. Yeah. Okay. So I need to warm up. I need to warm up. And again, wintertime. My God, my hands are so dry, and I eat like a really good high-fat diet that I don't understand why this is happening, but it is. And soon as like the heat stops coming on every 2 minutes, like my hands get better. So I hate. I'm sorry. I hate putting lotion on my hands. You can't grab the pencil. It's terrible. Okay, now that I've drawn attention to my hands, beautiful. Let's do this. So everybody out there on YouTube, let's just try some ovals. Okay, and this is my first time picking up a pencil today, so I'm really, really, really stiff right now, and this is my way of loosening up, okay? I'm a big believer in that everything that you draw on the human body is a curvy oval, and there are no such things as straight lines, and that's why I do this. So the other thing that I beg my students to do are these ellipses around the ovals in all different directions. So you can go vertical sweeping that way, vertical sweeping this way, and vertical sweeping that way. Now, if you looked at what I just did there, I'll do another one over here. I'm not moving my fingers. Now, I also always ask my students to do something that is the opposite, and feel something the opposite. And what you feel is you feel what it's like to draw the oval with constantly lifting your pencil off of the paper, and I'm drawing with my fingers. Okay, so this is the bipolar opposite of what I just showed you, and this is the way that a lot of people draw. They constantly lift their pencil off of the paper, and that's not good, okay? There needs to be a balance, of course. Like, you don't want to always do continuous line, but you don't always want to constantly lift your pencil off the page either. Hey, Carmela, welcome. Okay, so after I do that, then what I like to do is I like to do like one side of the oval, which is my letter C, my opposite letter C. I'm not moving my fingers, my letter C, and my opposite letter C. And then after I do that rhythmic dance down the so called body, um, then I also like to do my line of action, my long S curve. Okay, that's very, very valuable to do as well. I'm also an extremely huge fan of, drawing a shape and pretending that's a racetrack and we've got a bird's eye view of the racetrack, and I'm trying to drive my car on the racetrack without going off of the track. And it's a really good eye-hand coordination exercise. I went off the track twice. And then what is also very good is I don't want to put a hole in the paper and start denting my paper with this Cola Erase pencil is very hard. But you would go dark on one side of that shape. Now, somebody pointed out to me on YouTube, do you ever go the other way? So I'm going from left to right, and I like that better. Now let's go from right to left, and that doesn't feel as natural. It's almost like I remember I used to play ice hockey, and I knew how to skate backwards in a circle, at the face-off circle, like one way, really good. Or maybe it was righty, or maybe it was lefty. I don't remember. And then I tried to skate backwards around the circle the other way. I couldn't do it. I had to really practice that. Okay. Yeah, my head's in the way. There we go. Perfect. So the last thing that we can do here, and then we'll get started with our portrait, is I'm a big believer in also using the angles when you are learning how to draw. And we use these angles to create an abstract, stiff, little kind of shape. It's very abstract. And then right next to it, or to right below it, you can try to draw the exact shape. Now, the reason why this is so, so very valuable in tandem with this loose stuff is because there's going to be a time and place in your portrait, in your figure drawing, in your landscape drawing, whatever the heck you're doing, where you want to be a little bit more accurate and draw in a small area, and that's how to do it. Like you just need to kind of slow down and look at these shapes. Okay, I'm not saying mine's 100% accurate, but it's not bad. It's not bad. And what I also do, and we're going to get to drawing here in a moment, like in a minute. I'm also a very big fan of drawing horizontal and perfectly horizontal and good morning art vertical and horizontal lines. So we do this in my perspective and design class. So if I try this, I'm leaning down with that line. Let me do it above. I've got no guide really. What you're supposed to look at is the distance between the line and another line that's straight, or the line and the edge of the paper. Like, again, how most people do this is they constantly lift their pencil off of the page, and I like to call that chicken scratch. Other teachers call it a nervous line. I completely disagree. I completely agree with that. It is a nervous line, like you're a little unsure of yourself. And so let's do a perfect vertical now, and I'm coming down, and I am looking at the edge of the paper. So my perfect verticals are always a little bit more straight than my horizontals. Let's do it again. And, with the understanding that my camera is tilted a little bit, because if it was not tilted, it would be right where my head is. One more. And the tilted camera creates distortion. And now I want you to feel what it's like to do this, where you constantly lift your pencil off of the paper. And I see many students do this, where they draw the edge of the body and they constantly lift their pencil off the paper, and it looks like the edge of the body is made out of fur and not skin. Okay, so that's enough of the warm-up. This is like my little mental cue. It kind of transitions my brain from, nothing to some marks on the paper, and it's kind of reminding me of what I need to do. Okie dokie. So let's get rid of this, and let's see here. Yep. All right. And this pencil is extremely hard. So again, I know I repeat the same things over and over and over again, but old coal erase pencils tend to dry out. Excuse me. And when they dry out, they get much, much harder than the newer ones. So I'm going to just mark where my camera ends so I get a sense of the space that I'm drawing in. I think this is like roughly 7 inches tall, 8 inches wide. I'm certainly not going to use up all that space. This is just so I don't go off of the camera. And yeah, all right. I need a drink of water. This is called Stalin tactic. All right, hold on. Let's do this. So when I draw on YouTube, if you have any questions, just also I get it. We didn't start, so there's not too many questions. I'm not really isolating techniques. I am just drawing, and a good way to learn is through isolating techniques. So I'm going to say this could be the top of the model's head. So I this is just me, and you don't need to do this, but I really like starting on the left. Okay. And so I'm drawing the line at the top left of the model's hair, and there's all those loose, messy strands of hair. I'm ignoring that, and I'm just kind of drawing down. Now, that's a pretty big line right there, and that's going to dictate that my portrait's going to be way too big. So I might want to make that smaller. So now I'm going to just come on in and get an angle for the top of our model's hair, and then I'm going to come down to the other side of our model's hair. So I'm starting the portrait with this technique called the angles. It's the bark plate type of technique. So I'm going to just kind of now make a decision that that's going to be where the hair is. That's a lot of hair, a lot of shading if I decide to do this, the height. So now I've got options. What I could do next is I could draw the shape of our model's hair, and now I'm looking at the distance from here to the top. This is so I'm going inside to the pose, and I'm not just working on the edge. So now I'm kind of drawing that cast shadow that wraps around to the other side. Okay, so this is one way. Now I get you, YouTube. That's really light. Hopefully, you can see this, and it's hard to see when it's light. But in the beginning of my drawings, I really like to go where I'm going to spend over like 20 minutes on the drawing. I really like to go from like light to dark. So that's like my light to dark line. All right. So, then I can say that tilts a little bit. I don't want to get too much into the micro angles just yet. This is a very, 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 very stiff way to draw, but it's all good. I'm going to keep going now. So now that I've got this basic shape of our model's hair, I'm going to come on in, and I'm just simply going to go big or go home, and I'm going to draw the shape, or at least I'm going to try to, of the edge of our model's face. So now what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the distance. How tall is from where the hair touches the forehead to the top here? How tall is that? And I'm not saying I got it right, but how tall is that compared to the bottom of the chin? So I'm just going to, you got to start somewhere, right? Now, the more I talk, the more I distract myself, and I lose flow when I overtalk. But, it's part of being a teacher. You got to talk, right? So, I kind of want to go fast here. I don't want to go too slow and overanalyze. And, sometimes you just want to kind of get it down on the paper as quickly as humanly possible. So that's going to be the shape of our model's face. Now, so what do we do here? Recap. I'm trying to walk you through like my process so you understand how I do this. So I'm a big believer in using the angles on a portrait, not on the human body, just on the portrait. I'm a big believer in drawing the shape of the model's hair first, because their hair is truly their character. And then once you draw the shape of the model's hair, then you have heights and widths to compare to. The width of the hair is definitely wider than the width of the face. And then I go from, say, the forehead to the chin, and I see the chin is tilted very much, but I don't want to get too much into those micro details. Okay, so now we've got these two shapes, and we're going to not be so anal with it where, we're over analyzing but you just got to start somewhere. So now my next thing that I do is I like to use negative space. So I go from the bottom of our model's hair to where I maybe visualize the shoulder. So I'm looking at the height now from the hair, the bottom of the hair, to the top of the shoulder. So that would be my next. And you always, this is just what I feel, you don't need to do this, but I just feel if there's no shoulders, you've got a floating head. And what does a floating head look like? It kind of almost looks like the head was cut off and floating. It doesn't. It's just not aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So now I'm going to just suggest the ear. It's funny, I don't see the other ear. Maybe that is ear and not background. So I'm going to say it's ear and not background. So we've got this bottom of the ear. Look at the tilt of the jaw. Look at the tilt of that aspect of the jaw. Now width of the neck. So this is a little bit lower than that side for sure. And negative space between the jaw and the shoulder, and this shoulder is slightly lower than that shoulder. Talk about shoulder, I'm talking about the trapezius, okay? Okay, cool. So that is my extremely primitive go-through, okay? So it's not perfect, what are my first impressions? This side of the hair is sticking out too much. Now some things for you to take into consideration. Number one, when you're drawing this, do not commit to pressing down so hard. Number two, don't get stuck in the weeds of looking at all of these individual strands of hair. That's going to bring you down a rabbit hole that you're not going to be able to get out of. Just get the big angles, and then after we will get the smaller angles. Okay. Another major thing that people do, and you don't want to do this, is they press down so hard on the jaw and make this line so dark that it separates the face from the neck. And this is something you don't want to do. Okay, so now after I do this, there's options here. But I'm going to just go to my go-to, and my next go-to is I always look at the forehead. The forehead is my key, right? And I always use the height of the forehead, say from the hair to the eyebrow, and the width of the forehead. That is like my gauge for things. And so I'm going to maybe start with my gauge for the forehead, and this side of the hair is a little bit higher. And all the while now, I'm looking at the distance from here to here before I commit. Now, you don't want to go too slow either. So I'm just going to commit, and I'm going to get where I think the eyebrow is. Okay, so I get that eyebrow, everybody here on YouTube. Thank you so much for hanging with me here today. Let's see here. Let me see how many people we got watching. Okay, cool, 21. Thank you all for watching. I'm looking at the distance from the eyebrow to the top of the hair. Do that on your drawing. And I'm going to come on down, and I'm going to get the line that separates the light side of the model's face from the shadow side of the face. Now, I'm assuming that my edge is correct. But again, you've got to start somewhere. So I'm going down the face, and I think you need a shape early on in your portrait drawing. And that's my shape. Now, listen, YouTube, I get you. This is very light. I'm going to progressively press down harder so you can see. Now, this is what people who draw portraits don't do when they're beginning to learn how to draw portraits. They do not mesh the face into the neck. They think the neck and the face are separate units, but it's not. You've got to blend and carry down with your line that separates all the way around the shoulder, and you want the head and the neck value to become one in the same. And in doing so, you don't have a floating head anymore, and you're not separating the neck from the head. Now, some other pitfalls that I see people get into when they're drawing like this is, this is a young girl, and, people will give the young girl like a linebacker's neck. And there's nothing linebacker about this model at all. So you just want to make sure that the neck is going to be thin and not overly wide. So now what I'm doing is I'm assessing my portrait. Is the face too wide? It looks a little wide to me, but I don't want to make major surgical changes to my drawing. I just want to make little minor tweaks. So I'm going to bring in the jaw better, and just maybe now if that's the bottom of that ear, the head's fairly level. I'm going to put the bottom of this ear over here. So I'm being very analytical right now. And now I bring the hair inward because I'm looking at this dark shadow shape, and I don't want this too wide. So I remember this from last week's drawing. The hair, the bangs, whatever you want to call it, came up like that. And that needs to be a little bit taller than what I have, for sure. And what we just did there was the character of the model. That's character. And so now I'm going to go in, out, in with the hair convex line. It's hard to see there. So now I'm just establishing a little bit more of a complicated edge. In and out, in, out, angle up. Okay, so I've got that edge. That's a character edge. You really want to work on that. And now that edge is living on that angle. So what you could do is you could start to give your drawing 3 values. So I have my middle tone, I have my light, and now I'm not going to add my darkest dark, but I'm going to add like a dark mid-tone, or maybe just a mid-tone, because I'm a huge believer in shapes. Shapes help you get proportions, and I just taught a light and shade class last week to my 4th-year students who primarily draw in line, and oh my goodness gracious, their drawings just really took off when they started drawing with some shapes, and it's just a very good thing for you to do. So now back to the eyebrow, because we don't want to live on that edge too much. That's not good. And I'm looking at the distance from the eyebrow to the hair, and I'm going to angle down. I'm looking at this height, and I'm going to just mark where I think the bridge of the nose is. Okay, now I'm looking at this distance. I don't want to second guess myself, so I'm going to leave it there. I can always move it. Now, this eyebrow, which eyebrow is higher than the other? These are questions that you're asking. The eyebrow is not round. Your eyebrow is angled in this emotion. There's no real emotion. The model's just kind of calm and looking down. So it angles down a little bit, and do not press down too hard, making the eyebrows overly dark. So now I'm just establishing that this is an edge, and this shadow line is a second edge. So this ear maybe is a little bit too wide. I can bring that in a little bit. So this is where I highly recommend, I'm not going to do this, but I highly recommend that you get up off of your chair and you look at your drawing from far away. You don't need to do this now, but this is just a very good thing for you to do. Okay, so listen, I'm going to adjust because I want to zoom in for you. And I'm just going to move my piece of paper. I'm going to shift it over to the left. So, yes. Hold on, people. I'm screwing myself up. Okay, time out. Let's move this because I want to zoom in. Now, when you do this, make sure your paper is level and plumb. I love explaining level and plumb to my young students. They're like, what? Like, that thing your mom or dad has in the toolbox. It's a level, the little water bubble that you used to play with as a kid. Yes, okay, that's a level. Level and plumb. That's the bane of my existence. I remember years ago, I had a fixer-upper, my first house, and I had put an extension on it, and I had people working on, and like they thought I was insane because I would always check for level and plumb. And they put up my garage, and the frame of the edge of the garage, the top of the wood was plumb, but the bottom of the wood bowed. And I'm like, put a level on it. I'm telling you, no, move the level down. It's not plumb at the bottom. I don't want to pull into my garage every night and look at a crooked wall and like, oh, yeah, you were right. And so many people just ignore level and plumb. Good morning, outdoor spaces. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so yes, what's next? I'm remembering the level and plumb, that episode with that house. What a nightmare. Okay, but I digress. So I'm gonna now I want to solidify this, Stephen. I'm remembering outdoor spaces. You know, all these names. Every semester I need to memorize like 100 names. And I'm getting better with doing that. So now I'm going to, and then not only memorize 100 new names, but remember 300 old names from students that you've had in the past. Okay, so let's come on in and do some shadow shapes. Now, listen, do you want to get better at drawing portraits? The answer is yes, or else you wouldn't be here. Always, when you're drawing your own portrait at home, choose a photo that actually has light and shadow, because you then begin to trick your brain into, you're not drawing facial features, but you are drawing abstract shadow shapes. And when you do that, everything becomes a game. It's just a game of drawing abstract shapes. It's not some serious thing. Oh, I got to draw this eye. No, you're just drawing shapes of shadow. And if, that is so much easier for you to wrap your arms around that concept. Okay, so I'm going to come on down over here, a little bit of shadow, not an eye, but a little bit of shadow. And this is a shadow and an eyebrow simultaneously. Let's see if I can talk here today. And now I'm looking at the distance from this shadow. This is going to determine the whole portrait. So the distance from this shadow to the edge of the face. Now, I did critiques on my website yesterday for members. I draw on top of their drawings over at DTO, drawingtutorialsonline.com. And 2 people didn't get the center line right. And I'm like, look at the center, the bridge of the nose, compare from here to here, compare from here to here. This is a big pitfall that just drives students bananas, because it's frustrating, right? It's very frustrating when you don't get that center line. That throws everything off. Now, I'm second guessing myself, so I'm looking at the very edge to here. Edge of the shadow, edge of the face. Now, edge of the shadow, edge of the other side of the face. So I have room to play. I don't want to be moving this too much, but I could move this into the left, and that's not going to destroy me there with having to over erase stuff. So I'm going to get the shadow of the nose. If you want to get better at drawing portraits, always work from photo reference that has light and shadow. Rule number 1. I don't like the word rule because people get bent out of shape with that word, but it's just... It's a big one for me. Do not, when you are, here's the context. People always take me out of context. The context is, when you are learning how to draw, always choose a photo that has good light and shadow. This light and shadow is good. Would I say it's great? For me, it is. It's good. It's not perfect. So now I'm going to come on down. Now, people on YouTube, look at me. I'm looking at the distance from the nose cast shadow to the little shadow on the side of the mouth. How long is that distance from here to here? Check that. And now I would do the lip next, but I want to go back and place the eyelid, eyelash. So we are not drawing an eye. We are drawing a shadow shape. And so I am not drawing individual lashes. I am drawing the lashes grouped together into a unit of shadow. I am not pressing down hard on my pencil. I am using light pressure. Okay, just feeling it out right now. And then look at this. Look at what I didn't do correct. the tear duct, look at how far away my pencil point is from the shadow. So now I'm doing these like little internal measurements, this tear duct, and I'm also looking at the height of the eye. Man, you're looking at a lot of things. Yes, we are being very analytical. So this has got to drop. This has got to go up closer to that. And you need to be thinking about all this stuff if you want to draw accurately, especially with portraits. Is mine perfect? No. That's why we go through the portrait multiple times. You go through it one time, you get some pencil down on the paper, and then you go through it again, and then you refine. And as long as you're not a lunatic pressing down really hard on your pencil, you can erase these things that are not necessarily. We're not going to call them mistakes. We're going to call them inaccuracies. Okay, so now I'm going to go a little faster, and I'm looking at the other tear duct. How far away are these tear ducts? I don't use. I'm a huge fan of Loomis. Love Loomis, but I'm not using none of that stuff. No, I didn't learn that way. I learned through being analytical, and I call it comparative analysis. You are comparing and analyzing, comparing heights and widths and analyzing. Loomis method is more of a formula, which I am not knocking. I think is great. I think it's wonderful, and I think it's a really good foundation for a lot of people, like when you're learning how to draw. And it's too tedious for me right now. And plus, I have many, many years under my belt of painting and drawing. I felt really old the other day. I was in my Don Art Corner. You did the right thing regarding your house. At the end of the construction, like I didn't want to be one of those homeowners that was just a royal pain in the butt. I didn't want to be that person. But I learned a lot about myself. That you have to know when to back off, and one not to be too anal with people who are working on your house. But there's different standards. People have different standards. What's good for one person isn't good for another. That's why I don't really believe in reviews too much, like on Amazon, because I don't know who's reviewing the product. They may not have my standards. And yeah, visually, these things are really important for me. Let me just look at this chat. Maybe not a rule, but a guideline. Do you think about bone structure? Absolutely. Yeah, all day long. So, like, I'm looking, this model has some serious cheekbones. I'm always looking at, this is the brow bone and this is turning under to an eye socket. There's a member on my website, Jake. Jake, I don't know if you're watching, but Jake drew the model that we drew last week, and there was no like shadow on the underplane of the brow bone. So the model just had such a prominent like brow, which is not good if you're trying to do a young girl. Everybody has their own aesthetics. So if I'm drawing a young girl, I don't want their brow bone to be like Cro-Magnon, right? I want it to be like a little bit more graceful. So yeah, for sure, I am totally thinking about bone structure. I do that more so when I start to render and place values. Now, I don't like this eye. Doesn't feel right to me. I think it feels like a little bit too big. But before I start to get all bent out of shape about that and start using my eraser and making a big hot mess, I'm going to leave it and add something else that I can compare it to. So, because this is nice and light, and maybe it's that it needs to be higher. Maybe the eyebrow's too small. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that. Don't get stuck in the weeds, people. So now I'm going to look at this little nostril, and I don't want to press down hard over here. I want a suggestion of the top plane of the nose, and then I look at the top plane of the nose to the eye. I'm looking at that distance. I don't want to get stuck here. I want to show the side of the nose versus the cast shadow. Two different things. Okie dokie. And so now I'm going to put a little tone there, and let's start to suggest the lips. So the lip is right below that cast shadow. I'm not saying I got the cast shadow right. And I'm also next looking at the distance from the bottom of the tip of the nose to the top of the lip. And you don't want to stop here. You want to keep that hand moving on the paper. If you stop, then you start to overanalyze, and you've got to flow around the page. Look at the corner of the mouth to the jaw. And now this model has a model's chin, which is very short, for real. And yeah, now that's a long lower lip. Tall, I should say, not long. Chin. I love when the Amazon trucks roll by. I feel like I'm in some like futuristic movie with the sound of like the electric car thing, the electric motor, whatever the heck you want to call it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to call that, my friends on YouTube, my first go through. Is it good? I it's I don't think I captured the likeness. Last week I captured the likeness on the first go through. This week I didn't. So now it's time for a drink of water. Okay, hold on. Now, what I see here is I see a start. Okay, it's a start. Now, I'm trying to analyze, like, why last week, my drawing's across the way, why last week did I get the likeness on the first go through and today I did not? I think last week I used more connectors and more lines of action. And this week I'm not doing that. This week I'm focused a little bit more on shapes. So now what I can do is I can start to use more lines of action and some connectors. Okay. So what am I talking about? Let's see. So I'm going to come back here to the, speaking of bone structure, this rolls in and that should connect with this. That's a connector. I need to connect those. I think this face is a little too wide. Okay, now this jaw is going to come in, and the jaw is going to come in. That just helped me a lot with this. And then we're going to curve. I hate when my paper buckles. You see that? It's buckling. Let's see. Now this, I'm going to go a little longer with everything. Chin curves up. Now I need to be mindful not to press down too hard over here. Okay, so the question is, the end of your pencil looks sharp, but your marks look almost like you are using a brush. Okay, so let me do this for you. This is a question from Dawn. So Dawn, look, I am not being a lunatic and pressing down hard with my pencil point. That's a sharp press down. I am going very lightly, and I'm going over the lines that I already put down. Very light pressure at the beginning of the drawing. A, because this doesn't erase well. B, because it's just better, because then this soft tone, if you're like, oh, I need to move that line, and you move it to the right, then that could become a value, a tone, a background tone. So it's the pressure. It's the pressure. So now let me come over here, and this side I'm okay with pressing down a little bit harder on the model's jaw. Okay. And I need to bring in the cheekbone. just to get that vibe. I'm going to go a little bit more solid over here. When I tell you I'm not pressing down hard, I am sincerely not pressing down hard at all. Okay, so now that, and the neck is a little bit darker. I do not need to match the value of the neck. As a matter of fact, I am not going to match the value of the neck. I'm going to make the neck a little bit more of a lighter middle tone and have it feather away to the left. Okay, I'm cool with that. So now I need to start erasing some that things that are throwing me off visually. Okay, uh, I want to erase that width because I don't know if I'm going to turn that into background tone. That's throwing me off. But I think my next step is for sure I need to work on the model's hair and just solidify like edges. So this needs to be higher for real. Okay. So I'm going to press down a little bit harder. It's a slow process, people. Let's see, where are we? We're 40 minutes into this piece. And I'm not going to use a brush today because then that's going to throw everything off. But if I was to use a brush, this would go so much faster. This modeling. Why am I getting a glare now? Now this whole head is tilted like that. The hair, I should say. I'm just putting some value down. It's not perfect. Hair strands. Okay, yeah, this angle's up. Forehead is a little bit taller here. And then this kind of zooms downward. This eye's too big. So again, sometimes you get it on the first go through, and sometimes you do not. So that's just it's everything. It's like this with sports as well. So let's say we're talking the Olympics. Like, why did somebody wake up? Let's say a downhill skier. Why did somebody wake up and in their trial run down to familiarize themselves with the track, why did they go faster than on race day? Because that's just the way it is. When we wake up, some days we have it, and some days we don't. And yeah, I'm not saying I don't have it today. I'm just saying that this just takes sometimes like a little bit longer to get versus other days you'll draw and you're like, oh, wow, I did that. That's cool. I got it a little bit quicker today. And you just have to understand that that's the way it works sometimes. Okay, so I'm just doing some marks in the hair. Cool. So let me go back to the face. A lot of little things off. So I'm going to start here. This is my home base. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I'm not, that would be the point if I was drawing this way. This is the side, right? Um, so I'm at like a 3/4 angle maybe. It's not really flat. That's parallel with the edge of the paper. But a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start over here and see if I can't get this portrait now because I'm not thrilled with the likeness factor. It's not really there yet. Okay. Um, so you're just kind of going through it again. And then this curves around the cheekbone. It's my dark halftone. We have a little reflected light. I'm going to go down the edge of the face with a dark line. This is just more for me for aesthetics, not what I see in the photo. Um, I want to be a little bit more sketchy because when I envisioned doing this drawing, I remembered I didn't look at the Julio Reyes paintings where you see all these brush strokes of like color opposites, like they're like a yellow ochre versus a blue, a brown versus a cool baby blue, and I love that color opposite, and I love the brushwork, and so I don't want to also do this portrait where it's so perfect. I kind of want there to be like these rough brush strokes, kind of showing that eye socket and these lashes. And plus, I don't have, this is just going to be like tops a 2 hour drawing, not like a 4 hour drawing. So I need to make this happen a little bit quicker. Forehead feels a little big. Little gradation there. You have to be sometimes like a little impressionistic as well. Very dark over here. I don't want to overdo the dark just yet. Tear duct close. And downward stroke at the bottom of the brow bone. Eyebrow is an angle and not round like you're laughing. Um, Shadow here in the eye socket. The tear duct is closer to the eyebrow. And now I'm going to get the eye shadow slash lash slash abstract shape. Which eye is higher than the other one? This one just feels slightly lower. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to go a little faster. How far is this to the edge of the face? Curve around. This eye's killing me. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with it, but I'm just going to lift it. Interesting. So I think, let me sharpen this pencil. Let me just stand up for a moment. I want to look at this from far away. Okay, so this whole side needs to come in a little. And I'm going to put in a little reverse gradation so I can get rid of my mistake lines without having to always go to the eraser. And oh, I see. Okay, that needs to come in. Interesting. I completely missed that. So don't be afraid to adjust And here I was thinking this was gonna. Good morning, sleeping zero. And here I was thinking this was gonna be cake today, but no, it's kicking my butt. That's the way the cookie crumbles, right? There is no cake with drawing. You just gotta constantly practice. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little darker here. Now I'm pressing down hard. And I think I want to switch pencils to a newer one it's definitely softer, which will allow me to shade quicker. And using the old Color-Ace pencils at the beginning is good if you have a heavy hand. Just being mindful that, you don't want to press down too hard because you'll dent the paper for sure. Okay, this hair ends at the top of the eyebrow. And then we have our ear. Good. Sometimes it's helpful to get the shape of the hair in. I wouldn't say sometimes. I think it's just helpful to get the shape of the hair in. That's, yeah, very important. And keep looking at the photo reference more than you look at your drawing. Um, this model's cheekbones are very important. To the pose. And let's maybe recenter the mouth or redraw the mouth. Just the shape of the upper lip. Better. Yep. Shadow under the lower lip. Goes up a little bit and then it comes down the chin. All of this is in shadow. And let's just draw the shadow on the lower lip in and of itself. And the center line. Sometimes if you're stuck, like I'm kind of not feeling the eyes the way that they are, the way that I drew them, you just got to move and go somewhere else. Don't get stuck in like one area because that's going to be a disaster. Because you're going to start to press down hard and then you're going to start erasing and then things are just going to go wrong really fast. Okay, let's see here. Let's make these upper lips more solid as a shape. And circle around the corner of the mouth. And a little bit more shadow over here. Okay. Any questions? Kind of in my own world here on YouTube. Thank you, everybody, for watching. So I'm looking at the distance from the corner of the mouth to the... This kind of comes in a little. One constructive criticism, I'm going too dark with this line. But I'll tap it with my eraser as the day rolls on. Oh boy. I'm just looking at the corner of the lips over here. I'm going to make them a little wider. Edge of the nose. Let's just put that cast shadow in as a landmark. Oh, yeah, today this one's going to be easy for sure. This one's going to be easy. Not quite. Not quite. I'm just trying to be a little bit more aggressive with the darks here. Okay, well, let's resharpen. This pencil is much, much softer. Um, and I'm lowering this a touch. This is such good practice for me to do this every week where I'm doing a portrait once a week. It just kind of, portraits are really, really, really good practice. They're kind of in your face, like you can't really hide from the details. And there's just fundamentals to drawing a portrait that it's very good to do this often. Alexander, a student was drawing with that sort of metal nib, a quill in class, um, and they were drawing in a sketchbook. And in class, I sit in everybody's spot at least one time and draw on their pad. And I drew in their sketchbook with that quill pen, and it was different. It was different. It was really fun. Um, and the student liked it, so they were happy. But that's a whole another thing. And I what I like about pencil is it's just like painting because I'm kind of drawing like a painter today, uh, and I'm not against using the pen, but yeah, it's just a whole nother kit and caboodle, a whole nother discipline, so to speak. Let me just look at this chat here. Um, Bob, when do you when to stop on different parts of the face? Like, I have the mouth good, but the nose doesn't look right. So, Bob, you're finished. There's a couple different ways to understand and analyze when to finish. So, for me, I'm not even close to being finished. But the numero uno thing that determines whether or not you're finished is your personal style. And you look at your body of work. And if your pieces are all fairly consistent, let's just use an art term, like all of your pieces are impressionistic, and then you're working on a portrait, and this new portrait that you're working on is um, realistic, not impressionistic, then you should have stopped like a couple of hours ago because you're starting to have a different style. So that's the first way that I like to think about the answer when to stop. Is the piece that you're currently working on, does it match with your style? And number two, if you're working on the piece and you're working on it and it looks good, but you're like, I think I could make that eye better. And then you go to work on the eye and you completely screw things up. Well, that is, the universe telling you you should have left it alone and that you are finished with the piece. I learned that the hard way many, many times when I was an illustrator, when I thought the painting was done. And then I'm like, I could make that section better. And then I go to make it better. And I opened up Pandora's box and I'm like, God, why did I do that? Now I need to adjust this. It looks like shit. I fucked it up. Excuse my language. And that, like, you have to go through that to understand, like, okay, it may not be perfect, but I need to leave it. In this particular case, I'll be done with this particular drawing when I'm happy with the likeness. So the likeness is going to determine when I finish. My style is my style is my style. I tend to, everything I do tends to look the same. So it's not like I'm going to be drawing in a complete different style. It's going to be the style that I draw in. For me, what is determining when I'm going to be finished? Well, 2 hours is my max on this live stream because I have my painting class after this with members of drawingtutorialsonline.com at 2 o'clock. So that's determining when I'm done. But if there was no time limit, what would determine when I'm done is the likeness factor. Hope that answered your question. It's your style, like, so it's consistent. Can another feature like the nose being off cause the eyes? Yes, 1000%. So something is off on my image. I just haven't figured it out quite yet. So that's why if you haven't figured out what is off, that's why you just need to constantly keep moving around the paper and not getting stuck in one section and allowing yourself to get that tunnel vision. That's no good. So just getting a little light shadow on that side of the mouth, a little dimple here. I still feel this needs to kick in. And the bangs, or the long strands of hair, maybe is what they're called. Don't think I have that right. I'm just making this eye socket feel a little darker than the forehead. A softer hairline. Looking at this distance, it doesn't look bad. I am going to use my brush. Okay, so I'm going to use this little Bristol brush right now. It's a cheap little bright, I guess it's called. And I want to just use it in my shadows to push the pencil into the paper. This will speed things along in terms of matching values. Already better, my God. Okay. So I'm just using my Cola Ace pencil. You can do this with HB, 2B, 3B pencil. Stay away from H, like 2H. That's way too hard. And yeah, in essence, what I'm doing here, people of YouTube land, is I am making darker values because I am pushing the pencil into the tooth of the paper. So I don't have all those like little white specks that are distorting the value of the shadow. And I'm not saying my values of my shadows are correct at all. What I am saying is I'm using this brush to help me see things a little bit more clearly because I am starting now. Look at what that just did. In a matter of like 2 seconds, like I'm starting to see things clearer. And yeah, I'm not being a lunatic and I am not pressing down overly hard. I am not using a blend-in stump because a blend-in stump is too aggressive. With the brush, I'm like scratching my pencil into the tooth of the paper. Oh my God, I can use like a cup of bulletproof coffee right about now. Maybe that's why I'm screwing up. I didn't have my bulletproof coffee with my MCT oil, grass-fed butter, and element electrolytes. Okay, yeah, that's what it is, of course. Okay, so now let's get this eye socket. Damn it. Okay. Um, okay. At risk of screwing everything up, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive. Lots of residual. I don't know what is on this brush, but I'm hoping it's Colorase. Yeah, Bob, that would need many hours, which I don't really have many hours to do that tattoo. um, I'm just trying to soften everything right now. And I'm going to come in next with my eraser. I think I really need to go darker with the hair. That's what's messing me up. That's what's messing me up. Okay, let me do that next. Let's see. What time is it? An hour and 7 minutes. Oh my God. Okay. Wow. Holy Moses. We've got 30 people. That is, I watched a live stream and there were like thousands and thousands and thousands. I don't know how these people do it. I guess they're a little bit more exciting, needless to say. And for sure, for sure. Okay, so let's see. But I'm loving every one of you joining me here today and learning how to draw with me. I'm still learning how to draw myself and still making mistakes I made 30 years ago. It is what it is. Okay, so let's do this. Let's add value. And maybe we also need to shorten our model's hair. So my pencil strokes are going in the direction of the way the hair, the lay of the land, so to speak. Now, when I draw a serious portrait, I'll always have at minimum of two photos, one overexposed, one underexposed, one lighter, one darker, I guess is a normal way to say it nowadays. So I can see all of the detail in the hair for the light photo. And then for the dark photo, I would want to be able to see all the detail in the face. So I like to have two photos. Today I don't have that, so I'm not really seeing all of the details up top over here. It's going a little faded and dark. But I like this. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you. Anderson account. So Anderson, listen to me. I get all of my photos as of late at the company Graphit Studio. Graphit Studio. Now, I don't think Graphit Studio gives two craps about me, but maybe one day they'll see that I'm constantly promoting their website and they'll say, "Hey Matt, we'll give you like a photo for free. You've only bought like thousands and thousands of them, and you're promoting our stuff for free on YouTube." So, yeah, one day one could dream, right? Okay. I'm very, very, what's the word that I'm looking for? Cynical today, um, for a multitude of reasons, but we're not going to go there. Okay, so I am trying to get in this value and the hair. So let's assess. Maybe I have the head too tall with the hair. Maybe it needs to be slightly shorter. Maybe slight is the key word. Wider. I don't want to do major surgery on making it too wide. So I'm going to go a little bit shorter with it. And I want a soft edge on the hair. I don't want the hair to look like helmet head where it's such a hard edge. So I need to use the brush shortly because that will speed this process along. Oh yeah, Raphael's awesome. I like so many different people. I've got my Google Drive folders that I show in my drawing classes, and Raphael is definitely one of the folders. The problem with the internet is it's getting completely effed from the AI, meaning I'm not anti AI, but I'm anti AI images of the old masters. So if I go on Google and I search for Raphael, I used to get a plethora of like images that were all like Raphael drawings, and now I get like all this AI copy crap um, from people who and that's what Google puts in it. It's terrible. Again, I'm not anti AI. I think it's cool for some things, and yeah, for sure. And there's a couple of AI artists that I think their artwork is just so nice because they're talented and they've been painters their whole life. So they're taking their personal um, vision and just using AI as like another tool, and it looks really good. Um, so yeah, I just enjoy looking at their images, but I just wish I could find all of the Raphaels that I used to be able to find on Google before AI screwed up everything and all this AI crap that's really bad art screwed up the algorithm. Okay, back to the brush. Am I being too negative today or yeah, maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm usually pretty positive, but not today. We're having fun here. Absolutely. Something's not right with this portrait, but I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. It's fighting me, but I'll fight it back. Okay. Um, let's just pull out a little light over here on this ear. Yep. Let's see. Um, sometimes to get the likeness, you need to draw everything that you see. And it's like maybe that last stroke that you draw, it's like, oh, there she is. Last week it was easy. I just drew it. And I'm like, oh, there she is, like in the first 10 minutes. Um, okay, so let's see here. Let's go. It's getting a little heavy handed over here. I'm being stylized. I'm pressing down pretty hard on the edge. Not matching the value there. I think I might go darker here, even though my original game plan was to not do that. Um, moving the shadow over to the left, pressing down harder. Longer strokes. I don't want to do short stroke chicken scratch stuff. A little bit more with the corner of the mouth, and I need to work on the lip area a little bit. This is over to the left. I think that's what was messing me up a little bit. This blends into that shadow. And the darkness of the lower lip shadow. Okay, we're getting somewhere. At least I think maybe. That's what I'm telling myself. We're getting somewhere. Yeah, I just drew a mark on the page. Wonderful. Let's see if we can erase that. Looks like a scratch on the model's face. Wonderful. Okay, there we go. Love that. This angles down. This is going to be one of those very frustrating drawings where I'm going to have to stop, but I don't want to stop. I want to kind of get it. But yeah, I've got other obligations this afternoon. Let's just solidify the shadow. You're not drawing a nostril, you're drawing a shadow shape. I think that needs to be higher. Okay. Edge of the nose. Little darker there. Okay. How are we doing, YouTube? Is this still interesting you, or is this getting boring? Or was it boring the whole time? Okay, that's the eye. I'm just refining some things right here. And darkening this. Still another layer of dark. Matching values is extremely helpful in portrait painting and drawing. Oh, that's much lower than the eye. Oh, yeah. Just see that little iris, a little bit of it right there. Some indications of some soft lashes. You don't want to press down too hard with your pencil and make the lashes so sharp. Like they're loaded with like mascara or whatever that makeup is. Eyeliner. I kind of did it a little too sharp there, but it's all good. I can go over it with my brush, soften it a little bit. Making the eyebrow thicker without pressing down too aggressively hard with the pencil. How's the distance from the lash to the edge of the face? Gotta make sure that doesn't kick out too much to the left. Appreciate you, Don. Thank you so much for watching today. Um, okay, now this side of the face, I'm going to knock it down a value. Look at how I'm holding my pencil. I'm deciding to hold it further back on the shaft because I don't want to press down too hard over here. But we're just trying to have a gradation. And now I'll go back to holding my pencil the normal way that I like to hold it. I never tell a student how to hold their pencil. What I do say is don't do the chicken scratch. That's one thing I do advise upon, to try to keep your pencil on the page for longer than a tenth of a second. Okay. Let's raise the other nostril slightly. The mono zero out. Slightly was the key word there. A little bit of tone over here. You don't want to go too dark with that because you don't want to have the appearance of like a mustache or anything like that. Going a little dark there. And let's put some strokes on the lip, so round. The lip is not white, like it's a mid-tone, a light mid-tone. And tone over here, underplane. This part of the chin is angled. Okay, drink time. Okay, we're going hardcore today, people. No breaks, really. This drawing is really pissing me off because it was supposed to be easy. Oh my god, I just destroyed my pencil. What the hell? Okay, hold on now. For real? Okay, I put it in the sharpener crooked and the sharpener just ate it all up. Okay. It's just a color erase, right? You can't even buy them separately anymore. It's all good. Um, let's try our very best again with this eye. Is the forehead too tall? Actually, before I go to the eye, let me just... Gosh, this thing's kicking my butt. Let's see here. I don't want to make the eyebrows get too close together either. Okay, this is a little pointy at the tip of the eyelid. I'm doing the individual lashes just because I haven't gone there yet. Ay, ay, ay. That needs to be a little higher. Individual lashes right there. Let me get the mono zero. One more time. Hmm. This angles down, I think, a wee bit more. Not too much white there. There's these lid lines. Once you have the shadow shape, how do you decide on the direction of your mark? Um, it's this thing that I like to um, talk to. It's called the lay of the land. And so, like right now, my pencil strokes are going with the lay of the land. They're going around that little shape over here on the cheekbone. There's not a lot of shadow there, so I wouldn't want to press down too hard there. But my pencil strokes are going longer now because I don't want to do horizontal on a vertical face. So over here, I'm curving around the form of the face. So it's one way to think about it is that you are drawing around the form of that item on the face, whether it's an eyelid, a lip, the forehead. You're drawing around that form. Hmm. Killing me today, killing me. Going against the grain of what I said I was going to do, I am going to make this darker just because when I have an issue with the piece in terms of it's not working for me in terms of likeness, well, then I resort back to matching of the values. And when you match values, the chances of you getting the likeness go up dramatically versus if you do not match values. A little too dark on this side. So I'm going to flatten my kneaded eraser like a pancake and drag it. And yeah, okay. Just kicking out a little bit on that side. Um, okay, we're going to make a mess. Hold on now. Listen, I think I need to stand up for a second. I've been sitting down for an hour and a half. I only stood up one time. And you know what they say, people. Sitting is the new smoking. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, just give me like less than 60 seconds for a little bathroom break. Give me a second. All right, I'm back. I'm back. So check this out. Like last week, we did this portrait, and this portrait is not blended with the brush. Okay, and this one is. And my God, I think it's so much better to blend with the brush for sure. Not only does it make the drawing go by faster, but it takes out all of those white little nooks and crannies of the tooth of the paper where the pencil doesn't get to, because what the brush does is it pushes the pencil into the paper. Now, it takes a little bit longer to finish the drawing, because once you do this in one section, you need to do it everywhere. And then this I just use as like, you can use it to tap. It just makes the whole portrait like a little bit softer. And buyer beware, you need to be careful because this does take some of the pencil off of the paper, for sure. And sometimes that's no good. You can overdo it. But what it does is it puts down. What time is it? Okay. Ba Humdinger, welcome. Thank you. So Virginia, um, oh boy, I wish I can say your name. Virginia Costagiola. I hope I said that right. Um, okay, let me use a scrap piece of paper here, a little post-it. So, Virginia, um, oops, getting a pencil. Um, Once you have the shadow shape, how do you know? Okay, so let's say I have an oval and another oval. And I find my line that separates, and this oval is a vertical oval. I am shading vertically around the oval. Now, here's my line that separates. This um, oval is tilted, it's vertical. I am shading around the verticalness of it. And then I might do a couple of lines that go like that, just to go against the grain. Now, what I see a lot of people doing is they'll draw the oval and then they shade horizontally. And that's what I call death. Okay. It gets too choppy. So let's say now, is that on the screen? Yeah. If it's horizontal, then I might shade horizontally. That's not the only way that I shade, but that's one way to think about it. Okay. All right, let's continue on with this. And then thank you, CNTT6ZH. I'm trying. I'm not thrilled, but it is what it is. And it's some days you have it and some days you don't. I'm just trying to make it look like the model. That's my main goal. And, it's. I don't have a problem talking and drawing because I've been teaching for years and I've been doing art my entire life. So um, I know what screwed me on this one. I didn't use connector lines, and I didn't take the time before the live stream to analyze the portrait for these connector lines. Sometimes you need to do a little bit more preliminary work before you actually even start the portrait. And that preliminary work, you can just look at things and analyze before you start the drawing on YouTube or start the drawing in your studio. And I should have looked for a couple more of these connector lines where things connect together. And some people call this the line of action. Um, Other teachers do use the phrase connector lines. They're connectors. And it's just a way of flowing things into one another in a seamless way. And you think of it as like a road map or a street, a winding street, and all of the houses are built along the winding street. So it's that winding street thing that you would try to discover and features are on the winding street. I hope that's like an analogy that maybe works. I don't know. Okay, just trying to refine certain things. I think the hair is such an integral part for likeness, and I barely have spent any time. And maybe that forehead feels a little tall, but now I'm really pressing down pretty hard on the pencil. I want to make this pretty black hair over here. This paper is not that expensive. It's not cheap either. Nothing's cheap, but it does take a lot of abuse considering it's fairly thin. 400 series 80-pound paper is not the most high-end paper, to say the least. It's not a thick sheet of paper. And I am pressing down really super duper hard. I'm abusing the paper right now, and it's holding up pretty good. Being a little bit more stylized because of time, I would have loved to take my time with this a little bit more, but I'm just trying to be a little bit more aggressive to get this finished a little quicker. This is very black. I'm pressing down so hard. Just to be faster. This is so dark. Matching values is a huge player when it comes to getting a likeness in a portrait. And that also with this Kohler race, you got it, Virginia. Costa Giola. Okay. A little darker over here. Let's, yeah. I might go lower with this. Damn it. Okay, so I'm going to go just a little darker with the lash area. This just needs more time. It's really that simple. I need to spend way more time with this portrait drawing. This may be a touch wider. Light pressure with the mono 0. This hair, gosh darn it, is much lower than that. Oh boy. You suck. Okay, I need to make this lower. It is blurry. It is out of focus, and that's the reason why I chose it. But, you know, the downside to that is there's some information that I just can't see. Now, listen, everybody on YouTube. So I'm being stylized with the edge line. I'm choosing not to match the value. I'm choosing to be stylized, which means I'm outlining, and I really like outlines. They work for me. You know, a lot of teachers will say there's no such thing as an outline. There's just a tone next to a tone, and I agree with that, but I also like the way outlines look. So you just got to kind of do what feels right to you and not always concern yourself with what the teacher says. For sure. And what I'm doing here, I would tell students not to do this, to press down so hard, but I'm trying to get that edge clearer. I'm going to pay for this because there's so much I need to do for my class this afternoon. Yes, there is. Okay. I was only going to go an hour and a half today, but I think I got to go the full 2 hours. And I appreciate you hanging with me today. Does anybody have any questions? I've worked on the nose the least, and it's starting to show. Okay, let's see. Trying to be a little bit more brushstrokey with it all. I don't know if I'm succeeding with that. A little more to the left with the chin. And there's all these subtleties that I don't even have anything with the nose. Again, this is like a time thing. I just need more time on it. Um, let's go. Oh boy. Kind of a little button nose here. I don't like doing a lot over here, but I'm taking a chance and I'm going to draw the underplane of that cheekbone area. And these are areas I would never put pencil, but I want to just have fun today and not worry about too many rules. Just for me, my rule is less is best on a young model like this, especially in the light. I don't want to do too much information that will make the person look tired or old. Nobody needs to look old and tired, trust me. So I'm just trying not to do that. A little highlight right underneath these lashes. So now I'm just drawing a little bit with the mono zero. Again, this is a drawing that needs a minimum of like another hour. But for me, this is like a 4 hour portrait, and I'm working on it on YouTube for about 2 hours. A little highlight on the tip of the nose. A little light above the lips. Corner of the lip. Highlight on the chin. Highlight. Let me resharpen this. Oh, please. Where is my knife? Okay, hold on. I got to find this sucker. I just cut paper with it. There it is. Okay, hold on now. I'm looking at the drawing on my computer screen, and it needs more weight on the her right eyebrow. So I need to do that next. Any questions, people? Yeah. Okay. I need to just spend more time. I just need to spend more time on this. Um, okay, let's use this big brush. Lots of things need to be refined for sure. But for an hour and 47 minutes right now, a little less, let's just call it an hour and with the break. And I was talking, and then the warm up. So let's just say we're at an hour and 40 minutes. Um, Not bad for an hour and 40 minutes. We just need more time. And it would be super duper fun to spend 4 hours on this today. Got beautiful SCM muscle rolling in into the clavicle. You don't want to have your portrait floating. Just make sure you didn't give the model a linebacker's neck, so we can make the neck a little thinner. You also don't want it too thin either. That's going to look weird. So it's feeling it out. It doesn't need to match 1,000% what you see, um, but yeah, just no thick necks. Although I would love to have a thicker neck, but not on this gal. So again, I'm looking to be painterly with it in certain areas and not so rigid. Again, what you're doing here on the neck, there should be absolutely no straight lines whatsoever. Every single line needs to be an S curve. And yes. Okay, let's see. How many people are still with us here? Okay, 24. Thank you so much, everybody. Um, awesome. Listen, let me just do the YouTube thing. Um, if you haven't liked the video, maybe like the video. If you learned something, maybe leave a comment. Tell us what you learned. I'm not really isolating techniques here today. I'm more so just drawing and having conversation. And if you want to see more isolated techniques, maybe take a peek at my website. The link is in the description below. If you have been stuck for years and you're like, oh God, I'm not improving, this is extremely frustrating, what is up? It's that you are missing one thing, perhaps, that could be a game changer. And, there were certain things in my career that were game changers that before I learned about this one thing, I was in perpetual like struggling, and I wasted years trying to figure stuff out on my own. So there's so many YouTube tutorials, and there's so many good YouTube instructors, but there's nothing like somebody with many, many, many years of experience drawing on top of your artwork and answering your questions. So it's more of like a customized way of learning versus a YouTube way of learning, which I think is great. I learn a lot from YouTube, and I think people who learn on YouTube are really awesome. But then it's nice to get a little bit of that personal coaching that isn't going to break the bank, and that's what Drawing Tutorial does. Drawing Tutorials Online does for you. You can join for a month, get 4 critiques, 1 a week. Oops, I just broke the pencil. And then cancel after a month if it's not for you. No strings attached, no questions asked. And I think, that's my little plug. Let's see, what else can I do here? Just being a little painterly. Just going a little nuts with the lashes. We're almost done. Thank you, Paul. How are you doing with your drawings, Paul? Everything good? Yeah, doing the eyelashes, you want to do them at the very end when everything else is softened out, and then just pop like a couple of them. You don't want to go too crazy with it. I really butchered this pencil. When I started, it was almost a brand new pencil. Now it's like, well, that didn't last long, for Pete's sakes. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Carmela. Carmela is just a painting and drawing beast. For sure, Carmela puts in so much work, and Carmela's artwork is awesome. Very hard worker. Yeah, so a lot of this drawing stuff is just doing it every day, just a little bit each day. Doesn't need to be a gazillion hours. It could be 15 minutes just to get the touch with your pencil, and a little bit of instruction, a little bit of watching YouTube videos. That's all you need. But you don't want to do it where you're only picking up a pencil like once every 2 weeks, and then you expect that you're gonna um, be on, and you're not. And the first half an hour is you just trying to feel out the pencil, and that's very frustrating. So, like 10 minutes a day minimum, I think you would go far quickly. Something's not right with this portrait, but I think we're coming to the end of this live stream, and it was fun. Just needs more visual attention. It needs more looking. And what the big thing now is, depends on what your algorithm is on YouTube. I don't watch drawing tutorials on YouTube. Um, I watch and learn other things, and one of the things, I watch a lot of sports coaches, and health people, and yeah. So yeah, this just takes a lot of patience, a lot of visual quietness, meaning you're just looking. Sometimes you just need to look more than you actually draw. So, like, the big thing, my point was this, like, the big thing nowadays is getting off of doom scrolling, because it's really effing with your brain. And when you doom scroll and you just look at short 1 second videos all day long, it just changes. It's like you're not even there. Like, it's like you don't remember after you've doom scrolled, like, what did I actually just watch? And so that's the thing about drawing, is it quiets your mind, And it's really good to train yourself to be quiet and still and just actually look at your drawing, and look at the photo reference and compare the two and actually just be present with it. Um, a lot of people don't know how to do that anymore. And that's why I'm sticking with this traditional medium. I love drawing digitally. Don't get me wrong, and I wish I can do this all digitally, but I would alienate so many people who like to use the pencil and who don't like digital. But I would love to. What I would like to do next with this is to paint on top of this digitally. Like take a picture of it, bring it into Photoshop, and just paint on it. And that's what I would love to do. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. Yeah, great model. All right, people. I think I that is it. Does anybody have any last questions before we sign off here? I'm just gonna. So look, I've got the straight line, and so now what is so much fun is I'm just looking for another eraser. Oh, where did it go? There it is. I could come on in now and create some texture with the eraser. Um, she, the likeness isn't 100%, I'm acknowledging that. But I also am acknowledging that I just need like another little bit on this, and I would get the likeness for sure. I don't know if I'm going to be able to work on this today because I need to start prepping for my other class that starts at 2 p.m. Um, but yeah, I want to thank you all for joining me here today. Yeah, the Photoshop would be really great because um, I draw on top of member artwork all the time, and I basically, in some instances, I paint on top of it. And I was doing that yesterday with Jake's work. I'm like, man, I would just love to paint this right now. It's so much fun. Okay. I'm still tweaking stuff. Just still tweaking. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you joining me here today for this marathon 2 hour session. It was a lot of fun. Um, Loved working this way, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. And please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And I'm just going to put in one or two last like little touches here and then get rid of the eraser crumbs and call this one done, and for at least for now. And what I've learned is that it's I should always use the brush. The brush just in a short drawing, the brush is really the way to go. Thank you, Paul. Jean Pierre Bate, many thanks for one more awesome lesson, Jean Pierre from Belgium. Thank you, Jean Pierre. Thank you, Carmela. Um, you got it, CN90. I appreciate you. Yeah, I need to really look at the drawing. Now I'm looking at some stuff with the chin. Um, Let me see here. All right, my God. That was a session, almost 2 hours. And let me just take this drawing off. Too much under the eye. That little, yeah, I need to get rid of that. But it's a fun little drawing, for sure. Jeffrey, thank you so much for watching. Virginia Castellio. Oh, I screwed it up. Virginia Costa Leo. I'm just going to say thank you, Virginia. Thanks for watching. Jeffrey, thank you. CN90, thank you. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up, everybody. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, definitely consider subscribing. And if you want to get notified when I go live, click on the bell notifications. I go live every single Tuesday at 10 a.m., or at least that's the plan for now. Yep. All right. I'll see you all next week. Thank you, everybody. Sleeping Zero, thank you.